The Talons of the Dawn, some call them. War heroes, adventurers. Others might simply call them friends. But their tale is one of grave dangers, bravery and sacrifice. So sit down, my friends, grab your ale, and listen as I tell you a tale. Having met on the outside of Mint, their first adventures were of mystery and intrigue, as people in the city were being murdered by an unknown assailant. They soon discovered the sad truth to these crimes. Werewolves. Loving, honest, and hard-working, the werewolves of the city were peaceful, for the most part. It was simply the terrible truth that some people would forget to attend that ceremony of saloon, resulting in hideous consequences. Our young adventurers ventured north in search of a powerful stone, only spoken about in children's stories, said to rid the lycanthropic urges from an individual who had succumbed to such things. They headed into freezing temperatures, hurricanes of snow and ice, their very skin burning as the cold bit their flesh and forced them to slow. However, they endeavoured to continue, and finally they found Hardreach Mines. Those mines were full of many things, but most of them dissolved the very flesh from bone. Yes, oozes occupied those mines, and our adventurers had to navigate their way around them and find the ancient sealed entrance to the deepest sections of those horrible mines. It was there that they found the long-dead spirit of Fenrir, a powerful paladin of Saloon. Twisted by her love for the stone and centuries of protecting it, the stone had slowly poisoned her mind. A great battle ensued, but our heroes prevailed. They returned triumphant, and the city of Mint could control its people from rampage and death once more. It was then that our heroes found calling over in Rockfall, the capital city of the frozen lands of Frist. Only a few weeks' travel by horse, they set off, and upon arriving in Rockfall they saw the manipulation, deprivation, and disgust put towards the poor and needy. The wealthy kept their coin, only spending it on large gold and jewelled towers which mocked the poor from down below. It became apparent that this city had become corrupt. Our heroes then worked with a local lord by the name of Illis, and together they stormed the castle of the mountains and took back control over the halfling king. It was only then that a terrible truth became known. The ancient red dragon, Hrandoon, had returned. Now wreathed in shadows, this great dragon had spent the last few hundred years in the Shadowfell, and began to weave his way into the nearby cults, and even into the heart of one of our heroes, Beatrix. But we will return to her part of this tale later. The heroes had rid Rockfall of its unfairness and greed for the moment, and Lord Illis set about starting a democratic system instead of a monarchy. It was then that the heroes headed back to Mint. This is where the tale gets darker, and the nights grow longer. This is where our heroes started to feel their minds playing tricks, their hearts losing faith, and their strength sapped from within. This is when our heroes set sail for Hailsa. Hailsa had been dominated by dark energies surrounding its coast for the last 5 or so months. Strange voices whispered through the air. A darkness impenetrable to any light flooded half the lands, and demons rose from veins of flame and destruction. This nightmarish realm was the abyss which had found a foothold in Hailsa, and it did not wish to let go. Our heroes worked tirelessly to find their way to the retaken capital city of Halfby, where a new guild of heroes had been established, calling themselves the Dawnhammers. It was there that our heroes gained the name Talons. The Talons were sent on a variety of quests in the aid of the war effort, and on their return were faced with one of the biggest challenges yet. All-out war. Thousands of thunderous, clawed feet, winged beasts, and snarling creatures were marching their way to Halfby, led by a giant demon of shadow and flame, wielding a flaming sword and whip. It roared across the lands, creating shadows and green cracks like veins in the very ground beneath it. The Balor was coming. The Talons headed back to the city and spread the word, and Halfby brought the majority of its forces out to meet the coming demonic hordes. The battle was long won. Arrows flew, radiant energies roared across the skies from the Prince Oberyn and his faithful armies of followers of Bahamut. Swords and shields impacted on flesh and bone as the great armies clashed together in a show of sheer might. It was at this moment that a great roar came across the skies, and Bahamut himself soared down to protect his people. However, this elation was short-lived, as dark energies rose to face this new foe. Fearbringer himself, champion of the demonic legions of Belial and the Abyss, rose to vanquish Bahamut's form. Everything seemed so lost. This new tiefling form, more demon than mortal now, covered in deep greens and murky silvers, had taken the one hope the Talons had left of defeating this evil. Or so they thought, as the Balor suddenly burst with a familiar radiant light, exploding through the darkness and banishing the demons back to the abyss. Fearbringer had gone. Left confused, the Talons, now war heroes of Helsa, regrouped and helped what was left of the army back to Halfby. The celebrations continued late into the night, but the Talons kept to themselves. They now had to choose. Do they support the prince? Do they strike back at the fiendish forces, retake the surface of Helsa? Or do they find out what has happened in Rockfall, amidst rumours of their old friend Beatrix working for that shadow dragon Thranduil? These thoughts were soon answered the next morning, as the prince called to them and summoned them to his castle. It was there that a few of the leaders of the Dawnhammers and the prince himself informed the Talons of how Rockfall was okay, and that, as needs must, the demons should be dealt with first. The Talons agreed, and so they accepted a new quest. The prince had heard from one of his advisors that an amulet could be found, one which could close any portal, one which could stop the demons returning for good. This amulet was said to be in the desert lands of hate. The party set off, first heading to Muir. They found no trouble, got some supplies, food, water, some new spells, some new equipment, alongside some camels and an elephant for the journey. They then set off as soon as possible, and are now heading south towards the capital city of Windlake in Hate. Going towards the deserts, they can see the lands grow drier, the dirt beneath their feet turning to sand, the greenery disappearing, strong winds and harsh heat now beating down on them as they start to travel into this desolate wasteland. This is where their tale has got to, and this is where you join in.